What's the purpose behind the marketing plan? You excite, you educate, experience, and engage. Let's do this, right? Let's do this and let's have fun with it too. To my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you being here. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing with Enda podcast, where I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. For today's episode, it's number 2 of the genesis of the Awami ED. Now, look, y'all. If you haven't gone and listened to the first one, go back and do that. But if you want to jump in, feel free, but you're going to miss a lot of context, okay? So for my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for listening. I'm excited you're here. If you like it, hit subscribe so that you can get this on a regular basis. For my worldwide listeners that have been rocking with me since 2016, nothing but love to you. And here's your heart. There you go. All right, so let's get into this. All right. So in the last episode, I talked to you about Awami, how I became the ED because of the vacancy, and I received an invitation due to me helping them in my craft. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to get to is, in which I didn't want to make this long. This one's going to be long, nor this other one long. I'm trying to keep this short and concise, right? Well, the history and everything that's been done is not necessarily a simple kind of concise, cookie cutter story. But I will do my best as possible to help you understand. And in the next couple of episodes, I will talk to you a little bit more how you go deep. So as they say, the riches are in the niches, or the niche. There's no rhyme for niche with rich, but it is what it is. So when it comes to Awami, it started by a guy named Sam Brooks. Sam Brooks is a veteran. He came to Portland, and by coming to Portland, I don't know his whole story because he doesn't always tell it in the way that you would probably best learn. And I'm a non-linear person. He jumps around, so I don't know the full story, but I know as a veteran, he came here to Portland, which he's not from Portland. And he started to network and learn about the opportunities some way, somehow. He developed as starting a staffing agency. Well, as a staffing agency entrepreneur, both him and his wife, they were continuing to doing the work. And the work they did it here in Portland, Oregon, and Northeast Portland, there were some issues, what we know now as the crack epidemic, the gangs. In Northeast Portland, there wasn't a nexus, or it wasn't a hub, there wasn't a place, there wasn't a center for folks to come and do the work that was needed to help small business and entrepreneurs get to that next level. So in this next level, Sam Brooks saw a vision. He had an idea. I think he was also encouraged to move forward with helping build bridges with other minority workers, but what Sam also believed, it wasn't just minorities, because back then a lot of black folks, Northeast Portland was, now it's gentrified, but back then it was redlined, and there's a whole story behind that. I won't get into it, but there is very few other folks other than blacks, because that was a red line community. If you don't know what redlining is, I suggest you look it up. So in this community, there was a lot of different issues that the black community faced in Northeast Portland. A lot of rich, great stuff, and a lot of horrible, bad stuff. He was the guy that created this organization that allowed people to find hope, to find jobs, and what I think is phenomenal that I couldn't find for years was he built a place where you could start a business. See, back then, back in the 80s, 90s, having a small business was not cool. Just being an entrepreneur wasn't cool. You were frowned upon. When I started back in 1999, people were like, what? what are you doing? Like, nah. Back then, he took a significant risk. And when you look up the definition of entrepreneur, it is a person who takes a financial risk to move forward with this idea. So, with that being said, I want to go into a little bit about Awami. Awami stands for, we say OAME, Awami, Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs. Our mission is to help promote and develop, economically develop, okay? Not just provide a space and sing kumbaya songs. We are to economically develop businesses. And he says, everybody's in, nobody's out. To their end goal, we reduce racism and discrimination. And how do you do that? Through promoting and economically developing small businesses that have been disenfranchised? Well, you give them access to finances. I think it was Adam Smith, and then how, in a way, you build a wealth, and how you build a system you do the 5 factors of production, where you do it with knowledge, with labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and land. Sam created that all in one space. And so, as we like to say, the trickle-down effect, where you give someone the money, as in the farmhand land, as you give the farmer a whole bunch of money to where they buy crops and they buy equipment, but they got to find people to work those crops and equipment, and then that money that they get paid sprinkles out into other families and out into the community, and it builds it up. It doesn't happen like that anymore. In this moment in time, Sam was a building block that had so many tentacles to where he helped the SBA on a national level. So when he said everybody's in, nobody's out, this was not a political thing. This was not a DEI thing. He was tapped on the shoulder by the Ronald Reagan administration to help codify the SBA rules and laws on a national level, to where in Oregon, he helped do that as well. Now, he doesn't take a lot of the credit. He doesn't talk much about it. I don't know much about it, but it all started when he starts in these stories, and as a nonlinear person, I kind of catch what he's saying. But it's one of those things when you've done so much and it wasn't documented where it was. Like now, everything's documented. Back then, none of that stuff was really documented. And that's why I wanted to shed light on it. And it's really important that we understand, because when we are moving our companies to the next level, you have to find that support system. So when I was saying, when I started off, if you go back to part 1 and listen, when I started off coming here 8 some years ago, I was told to come here because it had great networking. It had great people. There was opportunities where contacts lead to contracts. And absolutely, there were many opportunities where the networking event started at 7:30. There was a couple of times I didn't leave till noon. How does that relate, Nathan? I'm sure you're probably asking. Well, here where it relates. When I took this opportunity, I realized that there was a lot of folks not getting served because business that was done, Sam and his man Jorge caught lightning in a bottle, and they continue to do the same thing, and it works, right? But what did we learn with Blockbuster Video? What did we learn with Sears? What did we learn with Toys R Us? If you do not adapt and change, you will be roadkill. Sears still exists. It's just called Amazon because it's all digital. I always loved as a kid, like I would go and say, like, make my wish list for Christmas. I'd get the Sears catalog. But now you can do that. My kids, they create a wish list within the platform, and they say, Dad, here's my wish list, right? Now, you could do that with Amazon. Now, that's a whole nother story. But Sears is the same thing. They banked on things that was not technology. When it comes to Hollywood or Blockbuster Video, no one ever saw these things coming to where we no longer got promoted to by masses. Now we get promoted to individually. Last but not least, this bad boy. This right here. Someone had a patent on it who didn't want folks to get it out. Kodak. So Kodak had a patent on the digital camera decades ago, right? But if you were of age to know that Kodak had complete domination and in some ways a monopoly on the actual film to take pictures, they had a monopoly on the paper to print it, on and on and on. They didn't want the digital camera to happen because they would have to evolve. Look, we all have to evolve. And as Awami is evolving, we are evolving to help understand, we want to help understand, and I know that's not proper English, but we want to help understand in a way that we can help small business entrepreneurs do 4 things really well. Start, sustain, and sunset. I got a boy now who I work with when it comes to, he chops up my videos and does all my graphics. He talks about, Nate, I'm leaving this country. I'm like, what? Why would you leave the country, man? Like, why would you do that? I'm like, just you fine here. He's like, and he was saying this before the pandemic, right? Well, now after the pandemic, what have we done? We've all gone digital. My mom was a nurse. I've been a professor for like almost 10 years. Those are 2 industries that were never, ever going digital. And guess what they did? They went digital. Well, here at this organization, we haven't gone digital. Awami is an SBA microlender that at one point in time, microlenders were only nonprofits. Microlenders are now big PI firms, private investment firms. You can get a microloan all the way up to where you could potentially go public with this company. Because here's the beautiful thing about small businesses. And I'm not going to get into like the politics and the history, but America was founded by entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurship spirit and just the esprit de corps is in Americans, and we have the freedom for the pursuit of happiness. So when my man says, look, I'm going someplace else, he can. And he can still have a business here in this country or in the state and different states, because we are no longer a world that just does business locally. We do it worldwide. And I won't go into that because that's another topic, another conversation, another podcast. But here is where Awami is helping companies scale, sustain, and sunset. And the sunset piece is really important because there's so much materials out there for you to start. But when you start, you got to scale. And when you have that cash flow, which you don't have when you first start, you need it to scale too so you can sustain. But at what point do you say, you know what? I'm tired. I have to sunset. But when you sunset, are you going to get any money out of that? And typically, here's where Awami can help. Awami can help. What we haven't done in the past is get you to the point to where there is liquidity after all that blood, sweat, and tears for decades upon decades. And I say, you say, Nathan, what starts, scale, sustain, and sunset all about? Well, it's about the life cycles of an entrepreneur, because there's some entrepreneurs that say, look, I'm not hiring no employees. When I'm done, the company's done. There's some folks like, look, I want a business and I want to scale that bad boy or that bad girl up to be this. Well, sometimes you can say that this person is a freelancer while this person is a small business. There's different goals. There is no right or wrong way to assisting them. So as we are helping people, we call this technical assistance. It's really called business development today's time, because I've seen so many companies come through these doors that can't even write a check, that is not able to have a social media page, that doesn't have a website, but yet we give them funding. And you say, well, why is that a problem? Well, Mark Cuban said, which I learned in Shark Tank, You don't give somebody money who hasn't found that idea that is that is profitable, that works, that makes sense, that can scale, and that can be sustainable. Why would you give them money? Well, it's easy. It's capitalism at its finest. And that's what happens when we get greedy, because we see an opportunity, but we don't see the full picture. Awami provides that type of support. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm employed, which is crazy, right? And so this is where I love what I do by helping people. And so this is why I said, like, if you want to learn more how to be involved, go to OAME.org. Go check it out. See what we're doing. And when it comes to Sam Brooks, I loved his vision of saying everybody's in, nobody's out. And I want to make sure I get my notes in here because Portland became iconic for keeping Portland weird, because isn't that weird how it was celebrating diversity and it was really the underbelly, or it was Sam, in my opinion, with celebrating all people in diversity doing their businesses, but we see that on the surface level as we're just keeping people weird and it's diverse. What it started with the foundation of small businesses, and when you have successful small businesses, man, everything else is so much better. So go check it out. I'm the ED. If I can help you, let me know. But if you also need some marketing help, we're still doing that. I still got my people working for our clients, because once you're part of In-Depth Family, as I tell you to be you, absolutely, you need to be you. Do what's best so you can, oh my gosh. Here's what I don't think I've said before for a while. But if you're not operating at your highest level, you're keeping someone from their blessing. And you need to be operating at your highest level. So come holler at me. You heard it first here at Let's Talk Marketing with In-Depth Podcast with Nathan Webster. I'm your host. So until next time, I wish you nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed. I'm out. What's the purpose behind the marketing plan? You excite, you educate, experience, and engage. Let's do this, right? Let's do this and let's have fun with it too. To my first-time listeners, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate you being here.